Hey guys, Tammy here, and in this video we're going to talk about calling a narcissist bluff. Now, I think this is a great topic. It does come up fairly frequently. I have had this come up twice this week with different clients, and so I think it might be a good topic for us to touch on, because so many times when we're coming out of these toxic relationships with narcissistic or high conflict people, we have been manipulated through the bluff frequently, almost always, all the time. Everything's a bluff for a narcissist, right? So I think we're very susceptible to this. If you're the codependent person, and you probably are if you're watching me, but if you are, then you're probably very susceptible to the bluff. And so I'm going to dig into this and talk about why it's important that you learn to call that bluff. As always, if you like this content, don't forget to hit like on the video and also subscribe to the channel so that you get notified as new videos are released. And as always, please feel free to share this on social media to help as many people as we can. Now, narcissists have used bluffing typically throughout their life to get what they want. It's like, if I just tell you I'm going to do this thing, or I'm not going to do this thing, or I'm whatever it is, and then I get you all scared and nervous and, oh my goodness, what if they really make good on that? What if they really do it? And then you back off. That's usually what happens. Ooh, I'm too afraid of what if that really happens, or what if that's really true? What if what they're saying is really true? I better back off and leave this alone. I find that when you actually get the courage to where you can say, okay, fine, why don't you do that? Then that's when you will start regaining your power, and you will start seeing a shift in your relationship with your narcissistic person. It turns the table and starts to put you back in control. And I will give you a couple of examples of this. So I had a client recently where the client had a work schedule issue, and they needed the other parent to take the child, for the extra couple days or whatever. And they were trying to shift the schedule around, and I could take this day, and and you could take that day, and we could kind of flip things around to accommodate this work thing that they had to do. And at first, the narcissistic person was like, okay, cool, fine. Later on, they were like, oh, no, you have to find coverage. We're not going to change the schedule. I'm not going to switch anything around. You're going to have to find coverage. So I just said to the person, tell them fine. You're just to be clear, you're saying you want me to find a third party to take care of the child during my parenting time because you're unavailable to parent the child. It's scary, because the client was like, well, I don't have any backup lined up. And I'm like, I get it. And in the meantime, you're going to line the backup up, right? You're going to find somebody, whether that's calling a service and seeing about getting somebody, whether that's trying to ask family, friends, whether that's contacting your local church to see if anybody there can help you out, whether that's asking your kids' friends, parents, if they can help out for a day or two, whatever it is. Sometimes we got to get really creative when we're a single parent, right? Sometimes you have to get really creative. And a lot of times when you have a narcissist on the other side, you are essentially functioning as a single parent, because you can't rely on them a lot of times, or on their, commitment to follow through on what they say they'll do. I said, just, go back and clarify that, okay, you want me to find a third party. That's fine. I'll do that. And then eventually that other parent came back just like nothing had ever happened, and was like, so I'm taking the child from this date to this date. My client kind of went, wow, that actually worked. And it's like, yeah. And I think sometimes what happens is the person pulls the rug out from under you, right? The narcissist, they go back on their word, or they decide they're not going to follow through or do something. And it puts us in this panic mode, because it is like, well, I don't have backup and I don't have that covered and I don't know. And what if this and what if that? If I had a dime for every time somebody says, well, what do I do if they say this? Well, what do I do if they do that? And a lot of times it's like, look, cross that bridge when you get there. You can't play things out 4 or 5 steps ahead. I think this comes up a lot when I'm dealing with somebody on communication, right? Where we're communicating through the app or an email or text or something. And I'm like, okay, here's how you need to reply on this issue. And inevitably what the client will say is, well, what if they come back with this? And I'm like, okay, if they come back with that, send me a text of what they sent, and then we'll figure it out. Because I'm not going to waste mental energy on trying to figure out what their next manipulative move is. I think when we're doing that, we're very much operating out of fear. It's like, oh my goodness, I have to be able to see 3 steps ahead. I have to be able to know what's going on because I feel nervous. I feel out of control and all that kind of thing. And really, when you get to the point where you're assured in your responses, I don't feel that way, because it's like, I can send it and just wait because I'm prepared. I know what I'm doing. I know how to move through this. I know how to do the responses. I know how to do all of that. So I don't feel that fear. It's like whatever comes at me, I'll be able to figure it out, right? Whatever that person sends back, I'll be able to figure it out. Even with my own ex-husband, where, I have the emotional component as well. At this point, I'm pretty versed in what to do, right? Like if I can't deal with him, then I need a new job or something. So I don't get nervous about, well, what if he comes back with this? Or what if he comes back or whatever? And a lot of times when I'm working with a client and I'm helping with the communication issue, it's like, I want to see exactly what they say. I can't tell you right now as we're sitting here that, oh, if they say this, respond this way. No, I want to see the actual words. I want to see how it's laid out. And part of the reason I want to do that is because narcissists manipulate the words, right? They twist them, they turn them. When we're communicating with a narcissist, I want to be really specific. And it's funny because sometimes when I send a client something and say, hey, send this, here's what I want you to say to the other party. Inevitably, when I first start working with somebody, they'll take the liberty to change what I sent them. And they'll vary it a little bit, not massive, just a little bit. And then they come back and they're frustrated because, oh, look at the response I got. And it's like, well, yeah, you didn't send what I told you to. And it's like, well, yes, I did. Well, no, you didn't. You changed these couple words. And you know what? When you're dealing with these types of situations, I am very specific about every word. And that's part of calling them out on their bluff and all of this crap that they do and all the ways that they manipulate. You have to be very specific about your wording and about your verbiage. And I always call it trying to box them in, right? You've got to verbally box them in. And you have to learn how to do that and how to do it kindly and how to do it in a way that doesn't make you look like the difficult one. And so I'm usually choosing words very carefully. Now, sometimes I'll send something and I'll say to the client, I would say something along the lines of blah, 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 and then you can put it in your own words or do whatever you want to with it if I say something like that, because I'm feeling like specifics around this, specific words that are chosen aren't that big a deal. But when you're kind of in the thick of it and you're going back and forth with them, you want to be real specific about words that you choose. I talk about this in, this is slightly off topic, but I think it feeds into this whole idea of calling their bluff. And you want to use specific words like, one of the great words is concerned. I'm concerned about this thing, or unfortunately, we're not available, or, if they say, oh, I can't cover on those nights. Okay, well, unfortunately, I guess that means I'll have to hire a third party to stay with the child. I'll get that arranged, and just act like it doesn't bother you. I'll just get that arranged, because what they're looking for is for you to go, what? You said you would do this. Now you're changing your mind. What am I supposed to do? I don't have a backup. Blah, 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 blah. That's exactly what they want you to do. That's exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to create chaos in your world, right? And you have to refuse to allow them to do that to the extent that you can. But even when it does cause chaos into your world, your job is to not let them know that, because then that behavior will usually dissipate over time. It will usually, get less or drop off or whatever, because they're not getting the reaction out of it. They're not able to push your buttons with it. A bluff is all about pushing your buttons and getting a reaction out of you. It's not them actually being willing to follow through on that thing. It's sort of like who has more grit, right? Like who's less afraid. I'm going to stand here and say this is how it is. And you're either going to go, oh, okay, fine, this is how it is. Or you're going to go, okay, that's fine. That's cool. I'll deal with it. And they're looking for the first reaction. They're looking for the fear. So when you can say, oh, okay, that's fine. I'll deal with it. Even if you are over here curled up in the corner crying, even if that's the situation, you don't want to let that come across, because when that bluffing works in that way and they can see that they created that fear and anxiety, they know that they're emotionally in control. They know that they've been able to manipulate you in that way, which puts them more in a position of emotional power in the situation. So calling their bluff is scary, and it can be very anxiety producing in certain situations, but it's the only way for you to be able to take back that control in this type of situation. So if you'd like more help with this, or you'd like to learn more about my services, you can go to divorceuniversityonline.com/VIP-coaching. There is a link on that page where you can book a time to speak to a member of my staff, learn more about my services, and see how I might be able to help you on your child custody journey. See you guys next time.